I was 21 years old in 2017 when I took a part-time job at a gas station, a few towns away from home. It was never meant to be a long-term thing, just a temporary stop until I figured out my next move. Most shifts were pretty straightforward, ringing up snacks, cigarettes, and occasionally taking cash for gas. During the day, it was busy but normal. Nights, however, were a different story. The bright interior of the store felt too exposed against the oppressive darkness outside, and every late-night customer seemed just a little bit off. One particular closing shift still haunts my thoughts to this day. The store officially closed at midnight. Around 9 or 10 in the evening, the phone started to ring. I answered automatically, expecting a typical customer inquiry. Instead, a peculiar voice greeted me. Low, drawn out, almost like someone deliberately trying to imitate a slasher movie villain. It immediately brought to mind Ghostface from Scream, sounding incredibly forced yet undeniably unsettling. The voice asked if I was alone in the store. I paused, then sarcastically replied, "Yeah, you got me," before hanging up, convinced it was just one of my friends playing a prank. I quickly messaged our group chat, asking which of them was channeling their inner serial killer. They all feigned confusion, claiming to be at home, which only solidified my belief that they were in on the joke. About 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. It was the same fake horror movie voice. This time, they wanted to know why I had hung up. "All right, you got me," I repeated, my sarcasm still intact. The voice then let out a soft, oddly real laugh. Not playful as I'd expected. "You shouldn't be rude to people who know where you are," it said. I hung up again, but a knot of unease began to form in my stomach. While I still suspected it was a prank, the caller's chilling calm unsettled me. I tried to dismiss it, thankful for the steady stream of customers coming in for gas, beer, and lottery tickets. Yet, in every lull, my eyes drifted back to the phone. It rang a third time around 10:40 p.m. I answered, instantly regretting it. The voice inquired if the store always got so quiet that late. That comment, more than anything else, really got under my skin. I said nothing and hung up again. This time, I messaged my friends more seriously, telling them the joke was getting old and demanding to know who was behind it. They continued to deny it, each offering alibis. One with his girlfriend, another sending a picture from his basement, and a third claiming to be at a friend's house nearly half an hour away. At this point, my fear began to morph into annoyance. I started to wonder if they had enlisted someone else, but the unsettling truth was that even without saying my name, the caller was making comments that mirrored the reality of the store's quiet state. Around 11 p.m., the calls intensified, coming in rapid succession. After the fifth call, I stopped answering. The phone would ring, and I would just stare at it, letting it stop on its own, only for it to ring again a minute or two later. This continued for about 15 minutes. I found myself constantly checking the security cameras. There were a few outside and several inside. The gas station was isolated, situated off a road that became deserted at night. A small patch of woods bordered one side of the building, and an alley-like area housed the dumpster. The outside cameras weren't great. They had blind spots, and the night vision was grainy. Still, I cycled through them, half expecting to catch one of my friends lurking outside. I saw no one, but then I started hearing faint sounds from outside. At first, I tried to tell myself it was nothing. A tap, a light scrape near the sidewall. Then a noise by the back that sounded like someone stepping on loose gravel. It reached a point where I couldn't dismiss it. I texted the group chat again, more emphatically, telling them to stop and even sending a picture of the empty store, emphasizing that it wasn't funny anymore. They kept denying it. One of my friends even called me from his regular number, sounding genuinely confused, and not at all involved in any prank. He advised me to lock the door early if I felt I needed to. I hesitated, still convincing myself I was overreacting. Around 11:40 p.m., the last customer of the night entered. The sound of the door opening made me jump. I looked up to see a seemingly ordinary guy, perhaps in his late 20s or early 30s. Nothing outwardly strange about him. He wasn't dirty, nor was he dressed unusually. He just had a blank, unsettling expression. He didn't say hello, simply walked in and began browsing the aisles. I watched him on the cameras, pretending not to. He took an abnormally long time for someone who ultimately bought only one bag of chips. He would drift between aisles, stopping, and more than once, the top half of his face would appear above the shelves, his gaze fixed on the counter. Not casually, but as if checking on me. I kept trying to rationalize it, thinking maybe he was high, or tired, or just indecisive. But my stomach churned with a heavy dread, my body registering danger before my mind would admit it. He was in the store for at least 8 or 9 minutes. Finally, he approached the counter with his chips, still silent, so I remained silent too. I scanned the bag. For a fleeting second, everything felt normal as I looked down at the register. But when I looked up, I caught him staring directly into my eyes. The intense gaze held for maybe 2 seconds. It felt like an eternity. His face remained expressionless. He then looked down, paid, and I handed him the bag. He turned and walked towards the door. A part of me still wondered if I was overreacting, if he was just a quirky individual. But as he reached the door and pushed it halfway open, he paused, turning his head back towards me without fully turning his body. His chin was slightly lowered, forcing his eyes to look up at me. Then he smiled. I still struggled to describe that smile without sounding overly dramatic. It was as if he knew precisely how creepy he looked and was doing it deliberately. Every hair on my body stood on end. He then stepped outside, and instead of walking towards a pump or a car, he moved around the side of the building, maintaining eye contact with me through the glass, that unsettling smile still plastered on his face. I stood there, frozen, watching him until the angle of the building obscured him. Then I rushed to the camera monitor, following his path. I saw him round the building, heading towards the wooded area, before disappearing into a blind spot. He didn't reappear. I waited 10 seconds, then 20, then a full minute. Nothing. That was all the confirmation. I needed to lock the door early, even though it was still a few minutes before midnight. This might sound dramatic, but I texted my family and friends, telling them there was a creepy guy outside, and I wasn't joking. I told them if I stopped replying, it meant something had probably happened to me because of him. I rushed through the closing procedures, barely cleaning anything, constantly checking the cameras for any sign of him. Nothing. Midnight struck, and I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I grabbed my belongings, turned off what I needed to, and headed for the front door. The moment I unlocked it and stepped out, the tension was unbearable as I struggled to relock it fast enough. Once secured, I sprinted to my car, which was parked off to the side of the building. I was almost there, slowing down for just half a second, when I heard rapid footsteps, not running, but a frantic speed-walking pace, slapping against the pavement in front of the store. I turned and saw him. It was that guy. He had emerged from the front corner of the building and was rapidly advancing towards me and my car. I yanked the car door open, threw myself inside, locked it, and started the engine so fast I almost flooded it. The second the car roared to life, I slammed it into reverse and peeled out of that lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing there in the lights, watching me leave. The entire drive home, I bombarded everyone with voice messages and texts, exclaiming that I had been right, that I knew he would appear out of nowhere, This was no longer a prank. The next day, I texted my boss, recounting the entire incident. I explicitly stated that I would not be working any more overnight shifts. His response, after reviewing the footage, infuriated me even more. He became defensive, claiming the guy looked like a regular customer to him. He suggested I had simply been spooked by the phone calls and connected, things that weren't related. His dismissal enraged me beyond words. I was the one who was there. I was the one who received those calls. I was the one who watched that guy disappear around the building only to come speedwalking towards me from nowhere when I left. I didn't care if the footage failed to capture the terror I felt. I knew what had happened. I quit right then and there. I didn't even argue much. I just told him that if he thought that was normal, he could work the closing shift himself. I left that job with an attitude, and I was proud of it. Even now, years later, I remain convinced that the caller and the man who came into the store were the same person, even if I can't prove it. In moments of fear, uncertainty, or danger, reciting Ayatul Kursi acts as a powerful shield. It reminds us that Allah is the ultimate protector over all things. Recite it after every prayer, before sleeping, and when leaving home. No harm can touch you when Allah's protection surrounds you.